the reasons why we liked to use this one. It was published in 2014. Fairly short, but make the point, and it was developed by University of Virginia. So, in general, I'm just gonna go through the initial remarks. What was the problem they were facing? What was it?
Increasing
increased costs.
flexibility.
Flexibility. Okay,
Increased
that's
inventory.
a very good word. Flexibility for what?
The market.
What else?
They decreased their cycle time, which they thought was good, and their cost went up, which is not good.
Decrease the lot size. Decrease the lot size.
One of their problems is
Oh, yeah,
they need to
right, right.
decrease inventory.
Decrease inventory.
They also had to free up working capital while not increasing costs.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, the lot size, they were trying to decrease that.
They were trying to decrease lot size in order to,
So when,
so that was more like the action.
okay.
We're gonna get, it is important, these 4 points listed here, because I'm trying to kind of create an imaginary roadmap here. So we located this problem to be a problem related to lead time, okay? And by Little's law, we know there's a relationship between throughput, lead time, and inventory, okay? So, is this part of that? Is this part of that?
Yes.
These, well, we don't know yet, but eventually we'll know. Yes, that's part of the conclusions. And this one, can we expect to release some working capital by reduction of inventory or reduction of cycle time? We should. We don't know exactly if that's going to be the result, but it would be one of the effects expected behind it. Okay? So the other two, well, that's what we're going to do. How to address the problem, what were the consequences. So these were the specific questions. So we had that there was an initial scenario for the year 2012. It is my understanding that this is a real case. They just had to change the names of everything for confidentiality purposes, but it's something that actually happened. So the information that we were looking for, both for 2012, 2013, was capacity utilization, the cost of the inventory, right? Then what else? The throughput time or cycle time from Little's law, or what we define from Lean, the lead time, okay? And there were some specifics in the units, okay? The same thing for 2013, but there's one thing that happened in 2013, which is what? They reduce the lot size, right? And then at the very end of the case, they give an additional option. They say that they have the opportunity to do what?
Purchase the kill kits.
purchase of the fillers for the objective of reducing the setup time, right? All right. So there's some implications into all these decisions, okay? There are many ways that this could be represented. One idea I had in the beginning was decision trees, where you explore all the scenarios. I wanted to make it simpler here, so I'm gonna just use the conclusions from the different options and compare. So based on what results we got, there's the decision we can make. So there is one thing here. The purchase of this equipment has not been made. However, the reduction of the lot size has been made. That doesn't mean that we can analyze and recommend if the reduction of lot size was the right decision, and hence, based on that, if they are to purchase this thing or not, okay? So, I guess what I'm trying to say here is, based on the brief amount of data that is provided, we can explore multiple scenarios. So the first thing that we're gonna do is take this information and I'm gonna put it into formulas, okay? One of you guys actually was very specific in putting all the formulas there and the results. Most of you use the spreadsheets to make the calculations. Both are okay, as long as you reach to a point where your conclusions are fundamented in valid data. That's okay. So this was the initial data set that we got, okay, and we have that they use 2 shifts. They have 18 employees and $24 per hour. The days per year, 360, and the runtime in seconds per each unit of production is 0.4, which at some point we just use that data once, and then we have the setup time, 90 minutes per lot. It is expected that each change of lot will require a setup. And then the cost of scrap, the cost of labor, and the scrap material, that's again one of the things that are not included into lean principles. I mean, this is assuming that regardless of improvements and stuff, you're gonna have to scrap that material for testing when you make the change of lot. And then it's a cost of making the setup, all right? And then we were given the volume of production. We can see a substantial increase, somewhere close to 3 million units for the year 2013. And then the total runtime, the average production quantity, which here is the lot size reduction, 30% was it?
Yes.
Right? And then the total material cost of production. So we were not given the unit cost for materials. They just gave the entire volume, but we can divide this by this and we can get the cost by piece. Just if you wanted to make the insight. So, all right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna follow the author's solution in the approach of the formulas. I'm gonna just go through the detail for 2012, okay? So the detail is gonna be with the entire purpose of showing you how to calculate each of the things. I think most of you had that correct. And then we're gonna jump into the spreadsheet to see the calculations for 2013. If that's okay. So first, we needed to get the production costs, okay? So what did we need to know in order to establish the production costs? There were 3 costs, and that was kind of a hint that was already in your spreadsheets. it had some of the shaded areas, the formula, it had the sum of the three costs that we're managing. So one cost is the cost of labor, cost of material which was given, and then the cost of scrap, right? We had to obtain these three in order to know how much would the entire production cost for us. So in order to calculate that, how do we calculate the number of people, I mean the total cost of labor? We need to know how much time they were working. So we will start with total run time. So the 18 million was the production, the units per year that was given. And then we have 0.4 seconds per unit. And then we have 3,600 seconds in an hour. So according to the units they were requiring, we would get 2,076 hours per year of total run time. Okay? See if you can find that somewhere in the case that you're reviewing. Yep. The total run time. I'm gonna get, if you don't see that, then you're gonna skip at finding exactly the labor cost, okay? Because it might be that it was not reported or it was in a spreadsheet and you will be able to find only the last one. All right, so then we needed to calculate setups. The setups are gonna be mainly because we need people to make the setups and there's a cost associated with the setups as well. So again, we're gonna take the total production and then it said that each lot was running for 15,000 units, right? So we just divided total production by 15,000 units to get the total number of lots that we're gonna have in that year. So we're gonna have 1,264 lots for 2012. All this is 2012. Therefore, we're gonna have 1,264 setups per year, okay? So we have the total runtime, and as runtime, I mean the time it took to produce that amount of units, okay? Which is different from the time the workers actually were available, okay? So we have the total runtime, then the total number of setups, and then the total setup time is just converting that number of units for the time, multiplying the time each setup took. It was 90 minutes that was given. And then just to convert for hours per year, we divided 60 minutes per hour. So we have 1,868 hours per year are dedicated exclusively for setups.
Hey, your total setups is wrong. 18,684,799 units per year divided by 15,000 is 1,245.
45? Okay, I'll change that.
That's
Yeah,
what
we
they
got
got.
it,
1868 is what we
That's
got.
all we got.
Really?
He's talking about the lineup above
Yeah,
But
we get that.
you're talking about
Right,
this one.
yeah, I'm talking about that one, which will
Yeah.
affect the next one.
It's 1246.
We get that.
Yeah, 1246, that's
I
right.
guess I
It's just a
just,
typo.
No,
yeah,
it.
dyslexia.
Yeah, because in the next one, your number's right, it's just, you typed it in
It's
the
right
equation.
on mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were just asking like what it calculated.
All right, So, yeah, I made the change before I posted. So once we have the total setup time here, we can get total production time, okay? So the total production time is what? Is the total runtime plus setups. Do you remember when we said when we were looking at the principle behind lead time? Do you remember that we were looking at what is the actual time that it takes? It takes moving, it takes waiting, it takes production, and it takes setup, right? So in order to determine the production time, since we don't know anything about the moving and we don't know anything about the waiting, we could calculate that to some extent, but they give us averages of other stuff. So we're gonna use these two, okay? So that's what we have here. So 3,945 hours per year are dedicated for production time. Any questions so far? We good?
Having trouble finding stuff.
Don't worry. The
Okay.
important one, the first is gonna be this. Okay? So, we get this. So we are gonna use that to have the calculation of production labor cost, which is $24 per hour times 18 employees times 3,945. So that's how we get $1,704,054 dollars per year. That's the labor cost. Okay? So now, I think labor cost should be one of the information that would be available in your business cases. Okay? Just check if you find the labor cost and if that labor cost corresponds to it.
So it's not 18 employees per shift, it's 18 employees total?
Yeah, per year.
Because it kind of made it sound like there was 18 employees per shift. Because there's two shifts, so it would really be 36 employees?
I know we originally did it about 36 employees.
No, I just curious.
Yeah. What you're saying is basically considering that they're available during the whole 2 shifts the whole year. What they're calculating here is just the cost of production. So that's how much time the employees were involved in producing. Because remember what I said here. What are we doing over there? We're taking only the units that were produced and the time it took to produce them, right? And adding to that part, which is this, we're taking how long it took for the setup time, okay? So the assumption behind this is basically these are hourly paid workers. We're not gonna pay overtime, and we're gonna use them when there is production scheduled. If there is not production scheduled, then they won't be there. All right? So that's what we have for production labor cost. Then we mentioned we were gonna get two other costs. The scrap and material. Material was given, so we just need to calculate scrap. So for the scrap, we take this number, which again is the same to 64 over here, I'll change it. And then 290 is the cost per setup. So that's very simple. So we get a total cost of scrap of 362,167 per year, right? So all we gotta do to get the total production cost is to add the three of them, and we have a total production cost of $131,496,097 per year. Okay? So that's the production cost for 2012.
Can I
Okay?
ask, what was your reasoning again why you only used 18 employees? Can you repeat that?
Because we are employing 18 people to produce in
So
any
even
given
if-
day. Yeah. So we have 18 people,
That's per shift?
that's regardless of shift. We don't have shifts in these formulas here.
I think they're talking about how the
Problem set up. It says there's two shifts on the problem. There's
Yeah.
18
There was two
people.
shifts.
So is there 9 people per shift, or is there 18 people per shift?
It is,
It's 18.
It's
It-
18 people per shift. I
but it
thought.
doesn't matter right now. And I'm gonna get to that point. That 18 people per shift, or that calculation, matters when we calculate the total capacity. So let me try to establish the difference between what we're doing here and what we're gonna get. This is just calculating when people is touching a part.
So
okay?
what it takes for you just to produce the material?
To produce these 18 million parts.
Because there's 18 people at a time.
So regardless.
18 people at a time, that we would have that number of hours required for producing that volume.
Okay.
So we are saying at any given hour, we have 18 people, that costs $24.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way.
Also on the setups, we rounded down to 1245 instead of 1246 because I figured you couldn't do half a setup.
Yeah, it's fine, I mean, yeah, as long, there's a lot of round up, round down here, so.
Okay. So they're actually close.
All right. Any other questions? We good?
That's just.
Okay, so please try to find this number. If it is available, it should be in each of the cases for production cost. And then the real point that we're pursuing here is, in order to calculate how much our inventory is gonna cost, which was in the question, calculate the cost per unit. So the cost per unit is just the total production cost divided by the total number of units produced in 2012. So we get 7.04 per unit. Okay? So that is the cost of each unit, to produce one unit. Okay? Can I move on, or do you need some time to review the cases?
Can I have just 1 minute?
Okay?
Are we supposed to write on the case or no?
I'll post this line. Just, sorry?
Should we write on the paper or no?
Oh, yeah, for the feedback, yeah, because the feedback, we're gonna return it and they're gonna take it today. Every one of you is gonna take the feedback sheet today.
So if it's, does they have it on there? Doesn't have capacity. They have to, they need to do that.
Yeah, you may wanna circle and just suggest to review the calculations for the costs.
You're posting this though, right?
I'm posting these slides, yeah. Yeah, the only reason I want you to make notes on the feedback sheet is that you're gonna return that today, so that you have the next couple of weeks, each one of you, to see the notes. We okay? Yes?
Yes.
Can we move to the next part? Okay, so now, here's where that matters. We have capacity, okay? So in regards to capacity, we have to calculate the total number of hours available in the factory, okay? So we're gonna have 8 hours per shift, 2 shifts per day, and then 360 days, which were given there. So we have 5,760 total number of hours, okay? So let's see. That's the total number of hours. And this is the total runtime, okay? So that's the difference. These are the total number of hours that companies available. I want you to notice that we're converting, or we are basing every remark here just on the product, okay? So everything is being transformed of how long could it take to be produced, and how much the facility is operating so that we can produce that. So we have those 5,000 hours, almost 6,000. Then we determine the time for the lot cycle time, which was the 2945 divided by, and I have this, 1264, 3.2 hours per lot. Okay. So basically, this would be what? The time it takes to produce the 15,000. Right? So then we can determine the maximum number of lots. As for maximum number of lots, we're gonna just use the total available time we have and divide it by how long it takes to produce one lot. So we can do 1,819 lots per year. That's what we theoretically could do. We can't do more than that. Okay? In other words, we have reached, in terms of lots per year, the capacity. Maximum capacity is just the translation of that number into units, which was the requirement. We were required to provide that information in units per year capacity, right? So we have that we can produce 27 million units per year. Therefore, if we are actually producing 18 million, but we could produce 27 million, we are 68% of utilization of our capacity. Okay? Now, there's at least 2 or 3 other ways you can reach to this number. The important thing is that it reflects a 68%. Okay? It doesn't have to be this way. There are simpler ways or going another route. As long as you reach to the 68.5% of utilization, that's good. Okay? So that's the capacity. So we have answered so far only 2 questions. All right? We were asked capacity and capacity utilization. Okay? Then the next question was cost of inventory. We have one part to calculate cost of inventory, which was how much a unit costs. We just need to know what is the inventory over the year, right? So that's the next step. Are we good so far? So what should you be looking for in the reports? This number, 68.5. Okay? Can I move on to the next? Or a couple minutes?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. So, here's where we bring in Little's Law. So, we need to know, to answer the third question, and I guess the fourth item in that question is, we need to know the average cost of inventory, average dollars, it says there, of WIP, and then the throughput time. The only thing that we can use to calculate that is Little's Law, okay? But we need to calculate WIP first. So it said that any given time you would find 15 lots. That was in the text in the case. So that's the average WIP that you have, and you have 15,000 units per lot, so the average WIP is 225,000 units, okay? So what we have to do is just to take that number, multiply by the cost that we had in the 2 previous slides, $7.04. That gives us the average cost of inventory, right? So this is the cost that we're gonna use, 1,500,000, okay? So that's our point of reference. Cost of inventory in dollars, and then we're gonna calculate the throughput, or throughput rate as they put it, okay? And the only purpose for that is that we can play with this and calculate the throughput time. So, in essence, what we're doing is just rephrasing or renaming Little's Law. Instead of having WIP, throughput, and cycle time, we're going to have inventory, throughput rate, and throughput time, according to the text in the case, right? But it's the same thing. So the throughput rate would be throughput, okay? So what we're looking for is, this is Little's Law. We're gonna have cycle time equals WIP divided by throughput. That's what we are gonna use. So calculating the throughput rate, that's the number of units produced divided by the total number of days. So we're just converting the total throughput into days.
We did.
okay? Assuming that we are producing the same amount of units per day, it's just a number, and that's a throughput, what it means. So we have 51,000, and we produce, we have an average 225,000 units. So I guess the lead time or cycle time or throughput time to get one of these things go through the entire system is 4.3 days. Okay? So the name doesn't really matter. What matters is the concept. 1 unit of this is gonna get through the system in 4.3 days. Okay? That means if we go back to the Lego simulation, the time it takes from the base all the way to the customer, 4.3 days. All right? That's the number you should look for in the case. So we have answered all the questions, right? Capacity, capacity utilization, cost of inventory, and throughput time. Okay? All right, I was not expecting that to be this blurry. I just did the same thing. And let me just quickly tell you if let me do my things very quickly. Okay. Okay. So once you see these slides, just double click over the picture. It's going to open an Excel. So you'll be able to see the entire calculations here. For some reason, it's just expand that. Okay, let me just. There you go. So if you go through each of these cells, you're going to be able to see the formulas. It's just what we did. Okay, so everything is there. The formulas are put for you there. And all we did here was to include 2013. Okay? So with the information provided, we calculate with the same process the year 2013. Now the question here is, can we really compare to provide conclusions the data just from year 2012 to 2013? Yes, no?
Well, in 2013, they changed stuff, right?
The volume changed.
The volume changed, okay?
Production lot size, 15%.
Well, initially you calculated with the same lot size before the lot reduction, right?
So, in order to obtain valid conclusions on your insights, we need to create, I'm gonna call it 4 scenarios for 2013. Okay? These 4 scenarios are gonna be no changes, keep the same volume as 2012. So
That was a given though.
What?
I'm not trying to argue, but 2013 it said here's your new volume.
yes, the production.
Right.
The production won't change. The production, whatever is increased, where is the production? This is the 21.5 million.
Yeah.
That's gonna stay the same for
That's
the.
2013 with no other changes.
Yeah, there's four things that, the four scenarios are involved with two changes. One of the changes is the lot size reduction, 30%. The other change is if we were to invest into this device to reduce the setup time, okay? So since we have two possible changes for 2013, we have to analyze four scenarios that is the combination of these two changes. And the first scenario is no changes at all. The second scenario is lot size reduction only. The third scenario is setup time reduction only. And the fourth scenario is setup time reduction and lot size reduction. If that makes sense. So, that being said, again, I included those scenarios here. Again, you just double click here. You'll be able to see all the information in there. I need you to check if the team you're reviewing considered the analysis of at least one additional scenario in 2013, which is the comparison between lot size reduction and not lot size reduction.
We can ask you a question.
Yeah.
From 2012 to 2013, the change that they made in lot size and the resulting production increase, they increased their total production cost by 15%. So why would we make one of the options and not change anything?
That's exactly the point. The volume increased, and we assume that it just increased for some reason, okay? We are analyzing what was the effect of increasing or decreasing the lot size versus not increasing the lot size. So the only thing that we're taking as a point of reference from 2012 is the 15,000 lots. So that's the only number that really matters to us into 2013, and of course, observing the entire magnitude of what were the effects of taking one of these four routes in 2013 versus what was in 2012, and if it really helped or not, and what's the suggestion. Maybe the suggestion is do not change and do not increase.
We evaluated going back to 2012 levels and buying the additional implement, and that was the only scenario that actually decreased your total cost at all.
And that's a very valid insight. So that's what I meant when the numbers are single answer, the conclusions will be different depending on your analysis. So yes, it's very blurry here. Let me see if I can expand the size here. I have a summary for all this, but okay. What I did here in this chart is just I highlighted the changes here for setup. Okay. Then we have. Let me just go here to the headers. Here it is. So we have. See, 2013 is all the same with the new volume of production. All I changed here was playing around with that 30% improvement of setup, of lot size, sorry. This is just the lot size. So 15,000 was the lot size original. 30% improvement means 10,500, okay? So then I just play with not changing that and then changing it again. And then the number of setups and every formula, I just drag the formulas, it's gonna give you different results. And then the other thing that I had to change is right here, this yellow thing. That is the 40% improvement in setup time, okay? So all I did was to take these two numbers here and multiply them by 0.6. So those are the changes. Let me go back. Yeah, it's gonna move a bit, but doesn't matter. So these are the titles for each row. This is lot size reduction, no change at all, setup reduction, and the combined setup reduction and lot size reduction. Okay? So that you can track the results of each. Then, if we go to the questions that were being asked, those are in green, highlighted in green. So we see the changes here: maximum capacity, capacity utilization. We have the average width value here, and throughput time. So I know this is a little difficult to visualize, and I'm going a little fast. You can go back and just double click and check this. I have the comparison in the next slide.
I guess I'm confused on the point of doing the comparison back to 2012, because I thought they specifically stated that the volume increased because they reduced the lot size.
This just for the purpose of comparison.
Okay, but if my group didn't do that, are we supposed to mark that down?
Yes, we have. No,
Okay.
actually, the nothing happened is just a fictional scenario,
Okay.
because in reality we know the lot size was reduced.
Okay.
This is kind of an analysis to see, we would advise not to make the change or something like that,
Okay.
but it's not really what happened. So we have 2012, right? And then we have 2013, and this has an expected value. Depending on what you want to measure, let's say the total cost, all right? Then here we have option 1, option 2. So this derives into 2 options as well. This is setup, and this is lot size, right? And then for setup, we have the no and the this. No, this, let's say, and this is gonna give us as well the other values here, here, and here. Yes, when we make the decision tree analysis in this way, the comparison is on the overall cost, but what we know is that we are trying to make a decision. If we call, I'm gonna get a little nerdy, but from Bayesian theory, this actually was, in the proper sense, 2013, we have lot size reduced, and then we are just deciding for this or this, okay? So this is just for the purpose, theoretical purpose of analysis, but what really happened is this scenario right here. So again, that's part of what I wanted to express, little changes in the solution so that I could show the entire, and again, mine is just one way of addressing this case. Each one of you had a very different approach in how you address the thing.
You show us the final answer so we can finish giving the feedback. It's
Yeah.
right.
Let me see.
Do you know for sure that reducing the lot size drove the production up? Or could it be demand, or could it be?
Assuming there was a need for demand, otherwise there's no reason why you wanted to produce more. So, and
Because I thought there was something in there where like he talked with the marketing teams and stuff like that, and they got all excited, so you think maybe their marketing expanded, maybe demand went up.
Well, we would get into assumptions that
Okay.
we are not really sure for, but.
Okay, Enrique?
Yes.
When you're trying to decide the optimal lot size, when you're looking at reducing lot sizes, you know, as you reduce the lot size, it increases your capacity utilization. So what's a good level to advise a company to be at? Because like here, running your lot size down to 6,000 puts you right at your max. So what's a sweet spot?
A rule of thumb, I'm gonna say more like an empirical, always to go around 80%. 80%, and I guess that's something that is gonna come along with this next chapter in factory physics, because when you include variation, you're gonna have a lot of these things happening, and I can tell you one story behind it, but basically what it's trying to do, 80% is that you do not, how can I say, you do not overburden, or I don't know if that word exists, but you do not create yourself, put yourself in a position that is kind of a suicidal action, that you won't be able to meet service levels because you are producing to your max, and anything wrong can just derive into extending delivery times or quality defects and stuff. So 80% is a good practice, and it goes along with the concepts of buffers and safety stock and all that stuff. There's a whole system that needs to be in place to keep that along. And I guess the story, what I was gonna say is when you're probably very familiar with when the tsunamis happened in Japan, that there was, I mean, the reason I know that it came here was because of the nuclear plant and all that stuff.